This time on Monkey Life, Alison is in Vietnam to release 2 golden-cheeked gibbons back into the wild.
We're just a short trek now away from the release site. So far, so good, and they're looking good.
But there's trouble when a rival male appears on the scene.
We've just heard a big crash. It could be Limhuyen. I don't know. They're all chasing around, but we'll go and see.
Down, but not out. Will Limhuyen manage to find his mate Misu again? This is Dao Tien Rescue Centre in Vietnam. It's the sister sanctuary of Monkey World in Dorset, and the staff here dedicate their lives to rescuing and rehabilitating endangered Vietnamese primates.
We got him. All good. Our team are brilliant.
Alison has travelled 6,000 miles from the UK to visit the centre, which lies 160 miles northeast of the capital, Ho Chi Minh City. Vietnam is one of the most densely populated countries in Southeast Asia. Monkey World decided to open a centre here because, outside of its bustling cities, it's rich in exotic species, but struggles with the illegal trade in wildlife. Alison makes regular trips to Vietnam, but this time she's brought along wildlife vet John Lewis.
It's 5 years now since we've been working in southern Vietnam, and it's time to sit down and take stock, really. We've rehabilitated and released pygmy loris, black-shanked Duke-Langurs, and golden-cheeked gibbons, and after 5 years, it's really, we need to look at our success and our failures, because there's been a little bit of both. So it's time to make a plan for the next 5 years.
The rescue centre lies within Cat Tien National Park. The only way to get to it is by boat, as it's based on an island surrounded by the Dong Nai River. The current manager of the centre is Lee Butler.
Good to see you. Long time.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Unlike Monkey World, Dao Tien does not provide a home for rescued animals for the rest of their lives. It's very much a halfway house. Their ideal scenario is to release them back into the wild, although this isn't always possible.
The question is, should we have him down and do a proper health check?
Well,
I know.
yeah.
It's straight down to business. Alison wants to make the most of the limited time she has here. But during the afternoon, the inevitable heavy rain clouds gather, bringing an abrupt end to their first day's work on the island. Most of the primates which pass through Dao Tien are golden-cheeked gibbons. Today, the team wants to carry out health checks on a female called Ni and a young male called Binh, who's recently arrived at the centre.
Health checks for these gibbons are extremely important, particularly when they first come into the centre. Often they've been held as a pet, or perhaps in circus, and they would have been exposed, or potentially exposed, to a lot of human diseases, which can impact on their health. So the first thing we do is check them to see if they have contracted any human disease, like tuberculosis, for example. And there are other things we need to do, like put microchips in them to uniquely identify them. And there may be specific tests for animals with particular problems that we want to investigate.
Binh is up first, and Lee has been given the job of injecting him. Binh knows Lee, so is more likely to cooperate.
This should be a relatively smooth operation, but we need to stay back and be calm and quiet as to not upset him.
Lee hangs a net in the enclosure to break Binh's fall when the drugs begin to take effect. As soon as he's down, John takes over. This is the first time they've been able to properly examine Binh. He was confiscated by the Forestry Protection Department after being held illegally.
The canines are good.
Body condition good?
So far.
Binh seems to be in good health. John is putting a microchip under Binh's skin so he can be identified in the future. He's also taking some bloods so he can carry out some routine tests. And weighing the primates is important to monitor their progress.
6.9.
6.9 kilos is a good weight for a gibbon of Binh's age. One down, one to go.
This is Ni, female Ni, and she's just gonna have some bloods taken and a birth control implant.
But once Ni is on the table, the team hits problems. She's overheating.
62, 63 heart rate. It's extremely warm. We're sort of middle of the day. You give them an anesthetic, they're unable to regulate their temperature, it can shoot through the roof, and you immediately go into really big medical problems if they overheat. So it's absolutely critical that we monitor their body temperature, their blood pressure, their heart rate. 38.7.
Ni's temperature begins to fall, so the team plows on.
OK, blood, so implant.
Some of the female gibbons are given contraceptive implants because the team doesn't want them to have any more babies unless they're being released into the wild. They want youngsters to grow up in the forest, not in captivity. As well as golden-cheeked gibbons, Dao Tien also looks after two other native species: black-shanked douklangers and pygmy loris. During her many visits to Vietnam, Alison has observed the illegal trade in pygmy loris firsthand. Most are stolen from forests, either for the pet trade or they're killed and their body parts are used in traditional medicine. Baby Huai is the latest loris to end up at Dao Tien. He's just 15 weeks old.
His mother came to us as a victim of the pet trade. We know she was a victim of the pet trade because her teeth had been removed, which is quite common for pet trade loris because they have a venomous bite. And so she came in pregnant and gave birth to little Huai with one other infant. Sadly, Thor, the mother, and the other infant died. We think predator attack. So sadly, little one here is having to be hand-reared, but is doing really well under the circumstances. He's very strong. He's got a very feisty little personality. And, yeah, fingers crossed.
The team at Dao Tien regularly patrols the island, looking for snakes and other predators. But they're being extra vigilant at the moment, as there seem to be more than usual. A monitor lizard could easily take out a loris. Heavy rain showers are part of life in Vietnam, and the team has to work through them. Lee and John are on their way to a city called Binh Hoa, with two golden-cheeked gibbons who need x-rays. Dao Tien doesn't have the specialist equipment needed to do them. 8-year-old Ellie has been at the centre for 4 years. Recently, the staff have noticed she's having a problem with her back and want to find out why. They're also taking a young male gibbon who was riddled with gunshot pellets when he arrived at the centre. They need to know if any remaining pellets are either too close to or have damaged any of his major organs. After a 3-hour drive, they arrive in Binh Hoa. And while Lee checks on the patients, John prepares the anaesthetic. Ellie is of particular concern to John.
Since being in the centre, she's developed a profound curvature of the spine. So we want to know what's happened to the bones, and it's difficult without some sort of imaging to identify the exact problem simply by examining her clinically. So we're going for X-ray to start with.
For speed, John uses a blowpipe, and she's soon asleep. They need to place Ellie carefully to make sure they get the best view of her back on the X-ray. It doesn't take long for the Vietnamese technicians to produce the images.
OK, let's have a look. The curvature is extreme. There's a kink, for want of a better expression, here. I'm not sufficient of an orthopaedic specialist to tell you what's caused that, although for me that looks traumatic. Some trauma, some fall or whatever. But what's surprising, with that degree of spinal deformity, that there aren't neurological problems further down, because you'd expect some degree of spinal cord damage to go along with that degree of spinal damage. So it is still curious, and I'd like to refer that for a better opinion than mine.
Once Ellie is safely awake, all eyes fall on the little male called Tien. The X-ray will help John decide whether he needs to operate to remove the gunshot pellets.
3 pellets, I think it was, were removed from just under the skin when it came in. But as you can see, these white spots are lead shot. So there's another 6 shot particles in the body. Now, that may not cause a problem. And if they're not surgically very accessible, and the gibbon is behaving normally, I would leave that alone. The only issue would be whether those pellets had damaged some vital structure. And that we can determine clinically.
So, with Ellie and Tien carefully back in their travelling crates, John and Lee head back to Dao Tien. Since Monkey World's sister sanctuary Dao Tien opened 5 years ago, the team has managed to release 2 family groups of golden-cheeked gibbons back into the wild, as well as 15 pygmy loris and 4 black-shanked douglangers who are now breeding. Releases are always fraught with danger, as the wild is not an easy place for these animals to live. But the staff do a huge amount of research to make sure the places they choose to set the primates free are as safe as possible. It's been a difficult but rewarding journey for the team.
Dao Tien, as its name is, means Angel Island, was just that for us. It was a godsend because it ticked all of those boxes we needed in order to get these primates rehabilitated and back out into the wild.
Today, 2 more gibbons are going to be released in the national park. They've been at Dao Tien for 4 years after being confiscated by authorities in an amusement park. Both the female Misu and the male Limhuyen were originally stolen from the wild as infants, and staff believe they're now ready to be set free again.
Really can't wait to see yet another pair that I've known since they were quite young going back out into the wild. It's just fantastic. It's what this whole project is about.
Misu and Lumhuyen have been living in a semi-free area at Dao Tien for the last 18 months to prepare them for the big moment, and so have already had to fend for themselves to a certain extent.
We're just a short trek now away from the release site, so we'll get the gibbons quietly, gently off of the truck out to the release site and into their holding pen, where they'll stay for the day, overnight, and tomorrow's the big day, so far so good.
Cat Tien is a lot safer for wildlife than most national parks in Vietnam because they have more trained forest rangers there who are known as the Kim Lam. The team at Dao Tien, along with Mr. Binh and other Kim Lam, has chosen a site which has good strong trees for the gibbons to swing through and plenty of fruiting trees so they have enough food. They've also done surveys to make sure there are no other gibbons in the area, as they're fiercely territorial.
Alison.
Yes. Fruits that Mr. Binh has just picked up are boa fruit, which is one of the main feed items for the wild gibbons. So he's picked a few up and we'll give them to the gibbons now. So it's fantastic.
Misu is released into the holding pen first, closely followed by Limhuyen. The team needs to keep them as calm as possible.
The pair of them really are coping with the move and the release into that cage, that release cage, extraordinarily well. So I would have thought they were good to go tomorrow.
The fact that they're eating is a good sign, as it means they're not too stressed. The team always put tracking collars on their rehabilitated gibbons so they can monitor them.
This is the directions where you should point.
Dr. Curtis Pei, who helped to set up Dao Tien, has flown in from Taiwan to advise Mr. Binh and the Kim lamb who will follow the gibbons in the months to come.
Strong.
Once Misu and Lumhuyen are settled, they're left alone to adjust to the new smells and sounds around them. The team likes to do releases in the morning to allow the gibbons plenty of time to get to know their surroundings before nightfall. Misu and Lumhuyen are waiting expectantly when they arrive.
This morning they will have been given a little bit of food inside of the cage, but really what we want them to do is to come out and start going after the wild fruits in the area, because we know that this is a really good quality of forest and there's plenty of food out there for them. So we've got a few people here to be following them today, and we'll just have to see how we go. But fingers crossed for Lumhuyen and Misu. It's been a long way to get them here.
The Kim lamb work closely with Dao Tien and play a vital role in these releases, so Mr. Binh is given the honour of setting the gibbons free. Misu lets Lumhuyen take the lead.
What a momentous day, you know, it's pretty huge. And what's great is that Lumhuyen and Misu have gone up into the trees and haven't even looked back at us. I think we've got all of the boxes ticked, and just really pleased for them. And now I think it's time for all of us to leave, because we're noisy and awkward and it just distracts them. And we'll come back tomorrow morning, get out the telemetry gear and see how far they've traveled, if at all. So, really good day.
Next morning, the team returns to the release site armed with the radio transmitter to check on Misu and Lumhuyen. And they hear them calling.
This is it. That's them calling.
They spot the two gibbons high in the canopy. But then suddenly, another male appears and starts to chase Lumhuyen.
I don't know. I think we've just heard a big crash. It could be Lumhuyen. I don't know. They're all chasing around, but we'll go and see.
It looks like the site may just be on the edge of another gibbon's territory, and that's bad news.
Shh. Wait a moment. He's right here. Cow-eye sees him.
They spot Lumhuyen on the floor and now have to make the difficult decision as to whether to intervene. It's possible the other male is trying to pair up with Misu.
We've got Lumhuyen down on the ground, which for Gibbon is always a bad sign. We just need to know right now that actually he's physically fit, and I'm not entirely sure.
They decide they have to try to help Lumhuyen.
We're gonna try and push him to the cage.
But he starts moving.
He's up. We back off. Back off. Hello, my friend.
Lumhuyen seems okay, just a little shell-shocked.
I think he's healthy, but he's only staying at this height and he's frightened. We've got a standoff right now between Lumhuyen and the rival male that came into the area this morning. Lumhuyen's down low on the ground. Misu's left, probably waiting to see which male's going to be the winner. And we just now need to make sure that Lumhuyen can find himself a place up off of the ground. We can't leave him here down low. He won't survive. So, tense time right now. And he's fit and he's healthy, but he's terrified and staying down really low. So we're going to have to work on this and monitor this for a bit.
Limhuyen bolts away, but he's staying low. As he heads deeper into the forest, the team tries to track him using the transmitter.
There he is. It's very possible that the rival male has returned to his territory and his female. We don't know for sure. We do know for sure with the radio collars that Limhuyen's still over in the trees here, not terribly high, and that Misu's up the road this way. He's got to get his act together and get back up into the trees and get strong. Otherwise, we can't leave him out here.
Limhuyen and Misu's future is not guaranteed. Only time will tell whether the rival male will be successful and take Misu away as his mate. The wild is wonderful and the best place for gibbons, but it's not always the safest option. Next time on Monkey Life,
Morning, Jim.
Alison goes to the rescue of 4 more marmosets in Cheshire, but all is not what it seems.
I think we definitely have 2 different species here.
And it's all change at the orang nursery to make way for an orphaned baby from Hungary.